It's a very good afternoon in this crisp day in Mbabane. Temperatures operating at around 16 degrees Celsius. And I must tell you, it is a very, very cold day in Mbabane, but you don't have to worry about anything. We're about to take you on a warm cruise of business news as we look at today's business landscape. We have an insightful lineup for you today. And I, Sifiso Ngumalo, am very happy to be the driver of this ship today. Welcome to the program. It is going to be an interesting show today, and we do hope that you will stay with us as Eswatini's budget consultations kick off today. Minister of Finance Neil Reichenberg has once again called all citizens of Eswatini to keep going and make sure that they get involved. And, he's informing the public to make the input, and something that is going to be very, very critical in shaping the country's economic future. Plus, Business Eswatini, President Mvuselelo Fagutse unveils the Renewable Developers Guide, which is a bold initiative which is aimed at securing sustainable energy for Eswatini by the year 2050. This is in collaboration, of course, with the European Union. We also do have our Enterprise Watch segment today, and we want to dive into the struggles that are faced by entrepreneurs trying to secure funding. Yes, Nelson Ndlangamanda, seen on screen, is going to speak with Birani Dlamini. He is from SEDCO. They're going to break down the keys to writing a winning business plan. We also have our market analysis today, and Sanele Sbia is going to join us to break down the key numbers behind a turbulent day on the markets. We are seeing the Dow Jones Industrial Average edging up slightly by 0.33% today, but the Nasdaq Composite takes a hit, dropping by 0.39%. Meanwhile, S&P 500 is struggling here, and it is seeing declines at about 0.13%. What do these movements mean today? What is driving them? And what should investors be watching next? Sanele Sbia is going to decode it all. Coming up, you won't want to miss none of this. Stay tuned for these stories and more as we dive into the world of business. Let's start by looking at business news today. All right, our first story. The budget consultations process kick off. The Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, urges Eswatini to fully participate as their contribution is indeed going to play a major part in shaping the country's economic path. The minister says everyone has a role to play in these budget consultations.
This last week we have been taking the budget to the people. So if one will recall, during the Sibaya submissions, there was a really strong a desire for Eswatini to feel more included in the budget process. They just felt like it was coming from Baban and they didn't have much input in it. And so we are currently doing a lot of meetings on the ground to meet with Botopo, Tinduna, MPs and chiefs in the areas and Banvamenkosi, so that we all just get a clear understanding, number one, of how does it work at the moment, and then getting input from them to say, how will we do it? So we're not, right now, this year, we're not actually taking information of what should be in the budget yet, but we are just working on the process of how we're going to do this, how we're going to do it credibly, really to make sure that there's, number one, not creating maybe a wrong expectation of the process, but at least get something that can really work for our nation. So we're hoping that within a year or two, we'll have a nice process where Eswatini, even really at grassroots level, can have input in the budget and have a clear understanding also of how that works and what happens in the budget process. But again, maybe just to remind Eswatini that there is already a very good process in place for input, not only in the budget, but anything going on in the country. And Eswatini at grassroots level can speak to the Botopo. The Botopo take those recommendations, speak to Tinduna, bring it all together, speak to the MPs, and the MPs bring it to the House of Assembly. And the House of Assembly is a very effective way of making changes, looking at issues, discussing problems that we have in the country. Very robust. The MPs really keep us ministers' feet to fire when it comes to things that we do or things that we should do. And so from that point of view, it is a very well-functioning system as we have it at the moment. It is now taking that process that we have, maturing that where we can now also get budget input before. So at the moment we can, obviously the people can very clearly speak into the budget once it's created, but now the process is how do we actually in the creation of the budget bring those opinions forward so that they can be credible input from the people.
Business Eswatini's President Mvuselelo Fagudze has unpacked the Renewable Energy Developers Guide, which seeks to ensure that Eswatini has sustainable renewable energy by the year 2050. This is a guide that is a joint effort by Business Eswatini and different stakeholders, and it is funded by the European Union.
The Developers Guide is meant to help entrepreneurs in the energy sector with the assistance from the European Union. The assistance comes from the different partners of the EU that are deliberately trying to help Eswatini succeed in the green energy space. So there are people that are specialize in energy solutions that we're looking for in the green energy space that are based in the EU. Thousands of them at no cost to local entrepreneurs in the energy space. They provide technical assistance to them on how to develop a business case, whether it is on solar or other ways of generating power. As you know, there's hydro, there's biomass, but their role is just to help provide expertise because they've seen this many times and they've developed a lot of these various schemes for power generation. So all that they're offering is basically technical assistance to local entrepreneurs, members of Business Eswatini, and the entire Swaziland population that want to generate power for themselves. There's a developer's guide that goes into detail about how to prepare the business case, how to secure finance for your projects, and how to take your project to completion, basically end to end. And we really appreciate the relationship with the European Union in this instance. Behind them, there's obviously Get Invest and other service providers that they work with that are able and willing to. And we've been working with them. This is the third year that we hosted the Energy in Daba, and really the real issue is we need to fast track the generation of energy as Eswatini, so that we are more sovereign and independent as a country. It's going to be a long journey, but it's never too late to start.
All right, that's it for our business news segment. We have our enterprise discussion when we return from the ad break, where Nelsiwe speaks to SEDCO about why most entrepreneurs have been failing to secure funding for their businesses.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Exactly 9 minutes into Market View this Monday. Thank you for staying with us. Let's look at our interview segment now. Most entrepreneurs have been failing to secure funding for their businesses. Well, and most financiers cite that most of the businesses' plans submitted do not meet the required standard. Today, business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla sat down with Begani Dlamini, a business development manager from SEDCO, who will give aspiring entrepreneurs a walkthrough on how to write a winning business plan. Let's listen.
Welcome to the show, Nkosi. Sithi asiteka SEDCO lamuhla because there is a growing concern from financial institutions and different organizations that fund especially small and medium enterprises. There is a concern that they are not submitting competitive business plans. Please give us a step-by-step guide on what should be in a business plan in order for a business plan to be competitive and get funding. Yini kahle kahle lekumele ukuthi ibe khona?
Yes, it's true that a number of people are not able to put together a business plan. And at the same time, it's also true that quite a number of people are able to put together business plans that do not meet the required standard. So I think our talk today will help those both, I mean, people from those two camps. Some of the things that we have to include in a business plan, first and foremost, it has to be a well-researched business. And I will try to unpack it. A well-researched business is one where there is a problem that already exists in the market, and that problem can be solved with a particular product. And that particular the proponent, the proposer of the business, is able to bring that product to the market effectively. That is a well-researched business. And over and above that, that particular business must be able to generate profit, such that um, even if that business were to take a loan, it would be able to repay with portion of the profits and still remain with healthy cash flows, such that it can continue operating without any hindrances, cash-wise. So first and foremost is that, and then besides, then there are the issues around what needs to be in the business plan. The first thing that we have to look at in the business plan, like I said, was the market. You have to look at the market and what the market needs, what the problem that exists in the market is, and then you can move on and look at the product that we are bringing to the market as a solution, because that particular product or service must present a solution to the market. And then we will move further, because it's one thing just assuming that there's a market, there's a problem, and there's a product. We'll move further to now test the market to see if the market is going to accept that particular product. So you need to, before you even start off dreaming to start a business, to write a business plan, you need to be able to test the market. And it's that test that's going to tell you can go ahead. And once that test tells you to go ahead, you can now start testing the other things. The other things that you need to start testing are the profitability of the business. You need to test one, that's the financials. Two, you need to test your capabilities as an individual to run that business, because most businesses fail because we don't have those capabilities. So all of these things must be in the business plan. The market must be in the business plan. Describe the market. Who is your market? What do they want? And why? When do they? So there's a number of parameters that you have to look into. What product are you bringing to the market to solve the problem? And then maybe move on to talk about how we are going to now take the product across to the market, because as you know, there will be competition in the market. How are you going to beat your competitor? And that's the reality of business. So most people, when they plan on their own, they forget about competition. So how are you going to compete? Who's your competitor? What are their strong points? What are their weak points? And usually you use the weak points as a point of entry, as a penetration point. So, and then you move on from there. You look at the situation in general, the so-called SWOT analysis, whereby SWOT stands for strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats. And then also look at the pastel, which is the external environment, the political environment, the environment, pastel, where E stands for environmental, S social, T technological, and L for legislative, the legislative environment. So you look at all of those as to how are they going to affect your business, and how are you going to mitigate the effects of the effects in the event your business gets affected. And then you move on from there. You look at how you are going to, because now we get to the strategy part, how you are going to penetrate the market, how you are going to grow the market. So that's the marketing. It's called marketing planning, where you concentrate on how you are going to build a market from there, because everybody knows when a business starts, the market is usually small, and then you need to grow it, both in numbers and also in sales, because the numbers that the quantities that you sell, you need to grow those. You need to grow the number of customers that you reach, and you need to have a communication, a market communication strategy around that, so which is going to talk to your promotions, how you're promoting your product, and so forth. And then basically we talk about the marketing mix, and some people talk about 4 Ps. Those are the basics, the 4 Ps, which are your product, your price, your promotion, and your place. How are you going to organize things in such a way that customers will be happy with your product, happy with your price, happy with your promotions, and also happy with your place?
In a business, there is also operational processes like product delivery, supply chain management. Does that have to be in the business plan?
The technical part speaks to the product itself, how you bring the product to the market. It speaks to things like what type of equipment you are going to need to produce the product, to actually make the product. Even before that, it speaks to your decision whether to make the product or to buy the product, because it might be appealing. If I have the technical skills, I might want to make a gate. Let me make an example. I might want to make a gate, but it may be cheaper for me to buy the gate than make my own gate. So, in fact, we are saying, we are recommending that you should consider all of these things, because if it's cheaper to make I mean, if it's cheaper to buy a gate than make your own gate, even if you have the skills, you will still be able to deliver the product. And if that product is satisfactory to the market, it's fine. That's the technical part. And then we look at the production capacity that you need when compared against the market demand. Are you going to utilize all the capacity? If my machines overall can produce, for instance, 800 gates, if I may continue with that example, and I will only be able to, but my market is only able to consume or buy 400 gates. That means I'm operating at half capacity. And operating at half capacity has got some financial implications to your business, in the sense that normally your fixed costs per unit will be high.
How important is it for the economic feasibility of the business to be included in the business plan? Naloko kwekuthi-ke ngisacela le capital, somabhizinisi asayicela, yini lemcoka lokufanele ukuthi ayibuke kwekuthi mhlawumbe afake le capital yakhe vele uthi itawusebenza kanjani?
I believe figures don't lie. So it summarizes everything. It summarizes how much capital you will need, and it also gives you a breakdown of the capital that is required by the business. And when it comes to capital, it's important that you should, the use of the capital, you should demonstrate with your planned use of capital. You should demonstrate that your financial wisdom, you're financially wise. You must only request capital that you need, not capital that you don't need. So in some cases, in some instances, you'll find that we request capital that we don't really need, and the financer would sense that, and then they will be very, very. I mean, once they sense that, they will say, "Ah, "You don't need this 15,000. What is it for? You don't take money to save it, especially when you are borrowing. You cannot take a loan and save it. You must take a loan and invest it to make more money." So the financial aspect also contains I mean, the cash flow projection, which shows cash coming in and going out of the business, and demonstrates if the business will be healthy cash-wise, because without cash, a business is not healthy. So it will show you if there is a healthy accumulation of cash as the business moves from month 1, 2, 3, all the way up to month 12. And then you'll also have the income statement, or the statement of comprehensive income, which shows you the profits that will be generated by the business from month 1 all the way annually, year 2, year 3. It will also show you the total for the 3 years that's going to be generated. So it's in fact it's an indicator that the business will be viable. So that's why I want to repeat that the financial give you the picture of how the business will do in the future, if your assumptions are holding and if your execution will be perfect.
Having conducted all these trainings, would you say you are winning? How many of those that you have trained have been able to write their business plans? I mean, competitive business plans that have been able to get funding.
We've trained about 35 groups on business planning. Groups, mind you, we've trained 35 groups, but laba when you limit business plan by like 15. I think what we have to emphasize is the fact that they really have to work hard to do this. We have a service which is paid for someone who wants to hire a consultant. Let's say, said, go prepare for me a business plan. For someone who wants to hire a consultant, they can. It's at cost recovery, 938 Malangeni for that. But for the youth, we want to handhold them and teach them how to make business plans. And for us, that's an achievement. Once they prepare one business plan, they'll never not be able to prepare another business plan. So it's a lesson for a lifetime.
It's been a pleasure having you, Nkosi, on the show, and we are optimistic that the conversation that we've had today will help entrepreneurs to be able to craft a business plan that will be able to compete in today's dynamic business world. And siyathemba ukuthi bamfula abasha nabosomabhizinisi sebatawukwati ukuthi uma banenkinga ukhona setco njengoba nani-ke niliphiko lwakhe uhulumende lelisita bona bosomabhizinisi labancane yeveni.
All right, that was our Enterprise Watch segment. We have to drive in straight into our market analysis. Analyst Bia is here. We want to discuss the U.S. markets showing mixed results today. Dow Jones Industrial Average today rises by 0.33%, while the Nasdaq Composite and the S&P 500 decline slightly, and across Europe was a notable drop of 1.52%. We also do see some key highlights in Asia. Nikkei plummeting at 4.80%. But Sanele is here. We don't have much time, Sanele, and I'll ask that you just go over everything, perhaps starting with the U.S. markets.
Good afternoon, Mr. Nimala. Good afternoon to the viewer. So what we are looking into right now is just a market that is waiting for more data to come in this week. That we are seeing actually happening in the US. We are waiting for the non-farm payroll data to come out this week, probably today, and we are waiting to see Joseph Powell speak more on terms of what they expect. Jerome Powell, rather, to speak more clearly in terms of what they expect in terms of the monetary policy path within the US. So that's why we are seeing those mixed reactions. But what we are liking about the numbers coming out of the US, Numalo, is the fact that they still show that, they are mixed, but at those all-time high records, showing that the market still has that optimism in terms of the soft landing environment that we are going to go into. And then coming into the European markets, you will see again that Europe is generally also on the red. That's purely because Europe is also awaiting this data to come out from the US. And one thing that is interesting that we've noted coming out of Europe, Numaro, is the fact that we have seen German inflation. Just one of those figures that have come out. German inflation has actually come at 1.8% for the month of September, which is just a touch below what markets were expecting. They were expecting around 1.9. So markets are now trying to price that in and see if we are not moving into a situation of deflation. And, the data that's going to come out of the US is also going to help, calibrate those that thinking and those expectations in terms of what we should expect. And then when you go into Asia, what we are seeing happening in the Asian markets, Numalo, is there is those mix, there's a give and take. What we're seeing is, the Chinese markets, that's the Hang Seng and also the Shanghai Composite. We're seeing those really maintaining the gains, and with the Shanghai Composite right now coming at around 3.3. Now, those are all-time highs that we've not seen in a long time. That's purely because the markets are still responding to the stimulus that we saw the Chinese government pump into the markets last week. So there is that small optimism coming into play, but we are waiting to see if that momentum is going to be maintained, Mr. Nimalo. Coming down to South Africa, what we are seeing is markets also just let go of a bit of the gains that we saw in the previous week, purely because we are waiting for this data to come out and support whether we are going to stay in the soft landing environment or we might need to go back to a bit of a tight money environment. So that jobs data coming out of the US this week, that non-farm payroll data coming out of this US this week is what markets are looking out for. It's actually waiting to see if it is going to give us a nod in the right direction. And then when you look into the Eswatini Stock Exchange, you will see that nothing much has changed, but we are waiting to see that with the positive news coming out from Nedbank and also coming out from the likes of FNB, in terms of more improved earnings, we are going to see more interest take up in the stock market locally. And then when we come into our commodities, you will see that gold is also on that state of confusion, just still holding up above 2.6, but with just that marginal loss because the news coming out this week are actually going to be emblematic of whether we need to stay in a hedging market or we can actually allow the bulls back into the market. So that's what investors are looking into right now this week. And when you look into the price of Brent crude, you will see that Brent crude, though still at very low levels, signaling relatively weaker demand across the globe. But we are just watching with keen eyes, the issue around the Middle East. We've seen how, in the past week, Israel actually killed Hezbollah leader there. So that is a conflict that might escalate throughout the entire region. But we are just waiting to see how the region is going to respond. But fortunately, we've seen, countries like Iran and Iraq really just showing some restraint in the issue. Now that's assuring markets a bit in terms of where we are seeing the price of Brent crude go. And then in terms of the currency, you can see that, our Lilangeni has actually lost a bit of ground today across all major currencies, but still staying relatively within a very strong region at around that 17.1, really on the touch of 17 going back to that 16. But that's purely because of the news that we are waiting to see and those marginal losses that we saw in the JSE and, just this data-laden week, markets just trying to read into that, Mr. Neyman. Thank you.
Sasbia, thank you so much for your time. Right on time, 29 minutes after 2. Thank you so much to our viewers as well for staying with us on this Market View edition. It is the last episode of this month, by the way. It's a brand new month tomorrow, and hopefully even our dreams will be realized as we continue to wrap up the year. The third last month of the year, the month of October. God has been good. Thank you so much for staying with us. Bye-bye.